And so I guess the whole reason why like I asked for this interview was because there's been like a number of fishermen who are catching sharks. And I know that fishing is probably one of the top issues involving like the endangerment of sharks, right? So
Yes, overfishing. Yeah.
so can you like explain a little bit about is this something that you're worried about? Is this something that like conservationists are worried about?
I do think it depends. So what's been really nice is we've seen a really big shift lately, and in probably since 2000s and like the beginning of the 2000s, we've seen a really big shift to where a lot of fishermen and anglers have changed from kind of kill tournaments with sharks to they really are focusing on trying to save them. And they are really into the conservation because they realized how much our ocean also needs sharks, and how their regular fishing needs sharks, and how kind of it helps keep everything healthy in the ocean. So we've actually seen a huge shift. So it really isn't our fishermen that are affecting it as much. It's more commercial, it's illegal fishing practices, illegal long lines, things like that that are really actually affecting the shark populations. It's not quite as much our anglers anymore. They're actually really focused on protecting them and realized how pretty they are still alive and in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have a lot of support from most anglers and fishermen now to actually protect and work on conservation.
Okay, and like so the examples that are like bringing a threat to like our shark like population, like can you give me where they are? Like where do we see that mostly?
The threats,
Yes.
well, we do have illegal fishing practices go on everywhere, basically everywhere that there is
Mhm.
the ocean and everything. Um,
Mhm.
the United States, we do have we protect most of our waters, so there is a lot of illegal fishing practices here. Other countries don't have as many regulations as we do, so there's an ability to get more shark species in that area. We do, I mean, in the Gulf of Mexico, we still have issues with illegal fishing practices just because we do share our water um, with Mexico and things like that. So we have illegal fishing practices happening daily out in the Gulf.
Okay. And so what are you a part of when it comes to like the conservation efforts? Like what is your responsibility?
So we work with Texas Shark Rodeo and Sharkathon, and our conservation that we work with is this is a catch photo release um, fishing tournament. So we have all these anglers that will actually go out and tag all of these sharks for us. They've actually, since we've started this program since about 2008 and to now, they've actually tagged over like 13,000 sharks for us. And they get us the size, the correct species, everything like that. So we're able to kind of have a bigger idea of what kind of the inshore sharks are looking like. And then obviously, since they're tagged, people will call for the recaptures so we can kind of monitor and see, okay, like that shark's still out there, and we can kind of check in our database. But I mean, sharks are migratory species, most of them. So they'll leave and come back, or the water, there's a lot of water, so they can go kind of anywhere. So without them being satellite tagged, we're not too sure, but we do know that we have a really healthy population of sharks here inshore in the Gulf.
So that's awesome. Like so y'all are basically using what there already is to kind of like help the conservation efforts. How long does that typically last from? Like is it seasonal or is it just year round?
So Texas Shark Rodeo is a 9-month long kind of fishing. It's not really even, it's technically a tournament, but there's no reward at the end. It's
Yeah.
kind of all of the anglers use it as like bragging rights and like, oh, look, I caught the biggest shark. And they're featured weekly on the sharks that they're tagging, who has the biggest one, who's tagged the most. And they submit it into a database. that we get to kind of look at everything through. And then Sharkathon is a 3-day long event, and that happens once a year. And we have tons of anglers come out, and they all fish from the beach, and they tag tons of sharks for us. They also, all of the fishermen or anglers will take fin clips as well, so we can actually be able to do genetic testing on these sharks at a later date.
Okay. And
Yeah,
so it's just like all different types, right? Not just the big ones. It's also like
it's
the mini ones.
everything. Yeah, so there's Atlantic sharpnose that we have, there's black tips. Sometimes we get lucky and there's lemon sharks, tiger sharks, kind of all the ones that we see here in the Gulf. There's been a rarity, but there's been where they've got a mako off the shore
Mhm.
before. So, and so that's really interesting, and it's fun to watch.
Mhm. Okay, so can you tell me like why doing this is so important into for y'all's efforts?
I'm sorry, it froze for a second. What'd you say?
Oh, can you tell me why doing things like this is like really important for y'all?
So it's really not just important for us, it's important for kind of everybody, especially the ecosystem and all the life that goes on here in the Gulf and in the oceans in general. Without sharks, populations get out of sorts, and it's not healthy anymore. And so sharks really do keep the ocean healthy. And so it's important from the very bottom all the way to the very top. And it also is good for us. I mean, we like to eat our fish, we like to eat tuna, things like that. And without sharks, the populations aren't properly monitored. So it's really, really helpful, and for everybody that we are monitoring these species and making sure everything tries to stay as in balance as we can out there.